Hello and welcome to the Retail Journey. Today, our first of the episodes on the merchant mindset. Our special guest, Mr. Matt Musgrave. Do you even work out? Matt Musgrave in the house, former merchant, former supplier, and has joined us as a client growth director at High Impact. Really excited to have you with us today talking about the merchant mindset.
Booyah.
Glad to be here.
Let's go.
Awesome. And welcome, everybody, to the Merchant Mindset. We are all on the retail journey. I'm James Harris, CEO of High Impact, and this is Charles Greathouse, the Chief Growth Officer. And we are talking to Mr. Matt. How you doing?
I'm doing great. You
Awesome.
said Mr. Matt. I thought of
Mr. Matt,
what all my preschool aged
what my kids call you.
me.
Mr. Matt.
It's now transcended into my
I am a
professional
dad,
career.
so
Yeah,
maybe I've
that's right.
absorbed
No,
some
that's
of
all right.
that.
So a lot of people know you. You've been in a lot of different roles. People have seen you around. Been a buyer at Walmart. It's Matt Musgrave's or no S?
No S.
No S.
No S. Just Matt Musgrave.
Zero relation to Casey Musgraves. Zero relation.
No relationship.
Yeah, no.
Matt Musgrave. Where you're from? Hit us with the real. What's your story?
Wow.
Let's get real.
Yeah. Real. So started serving Walmart and Sam's Club straight out of college. Actually went to school for music. Always wanted to do music. Turns out that doesn't necessarily pay the bills.
Yeah.
And I'm not good enough to pay the bills with that. So started with category management and sales analytics and marketing analytics for Del Monte Foods, Big Heart Pet Brands, Smuckers, all through different phases of ownership.
Those are three
Great
different
brands.
companies, but the same
Sat
company.
at the same desk
Really? That's awesome.
with three different names.
Yeah.
And then went to Chobani and did category management for them.
M&A,
which
man,
was really
that's
fun.
part of the retail journey
Yeah.
for a lot of us. One, then the other, then the other.
Yeah. A lot of changing dynamics with that too. It was
Biggest
fun.
surprise during the M&A? I mean, they were all just trying to acquire Matt Musgrave.
I don't think that was the case.
Okay. But
Yeah, we'll cut that.
So you came here to go to college, right? You're
Came down
not
to
from
Arkansas.
Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah, correct. Grew up in Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay.
Big Chiefs and Royals fan.
how about those Chiefs?
Yeah, doing all right now. I grew up with really cheap tickets and really bad teams.
Yeah.
Right. No, you're if you were in it in the early years, you're a real fan.
Yeah. Like Elvis Gerbach was too good for the Chiefs. And, you know, who's heard of him? So, yeah. Anyways.
Elvis.
Yeah.
Still alive?
I don't know. Good question.
But yeah. Now we got Patrick Mahomes, who's probably listening to the Retail Journey podcast.
Probably
Leading
because of
away
you.
the Chiefs. Let's
Absolutely.
Yeah.
go. So
No.
came here.
Came down to John Brown University.
Golden
in
Eagles.
Siloam Springs, Arkansas, to study music. Did that for 3 years and then had to wake up whenever I wanted to marry my wife and needed to pay off debt that I jammed a business degree in a year and a half. Grateful for those business professors for understanding that my standard for excellence wasn't 100% in all of those classes.
That's awesome.
No, but it was a great experience. And then, started on the supplier community and did that for a little over 5 years. And
So
then,
after the Del Monte journey,
yeah,
where'd you go?
Chobani, category management, not category advisorship, but it was qualitative and quantitative
More
research.
classical category
Yeah.
management.
Yep, using market data and prying through Retail Inc., IRI.
Oh, man. We love
Nielsen.
data. That's great.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So I know you and Charles might go back a ways. I first got introduced to you as a merchant.
Yeah.
Right?
So that was it right after Chobani.
Yep.
I had the opportunity to go and buy sports nutrition, weight management, had a little bit of adult nutrition in there too at Walmart for about 4.5 years.
And I believe you launched a category within Walmart, right? Sports nutrition?
Well, I renamed it.
Renamed it. Okay.
It was
renamed.
active
All right.
nutrition, just renamed it. We split
Oh,
up
it
the
totally
categories
counts.
a little bit differently.
We'll call it
but-
a launch.
Yeah,
we'll
it
call
was,
it a launch.
it was a soft launch. Yeah.
But it expanded a great deal, right?
Yeah.
It was brought in a lot of new brands,
Yep.
a lot of new trends that hadn't been a part of Walmart retail.
Yep.
Up to that point.
Ended up started with about 45 suppliers that I dealt with across those, and by the time I left, was up to 65 different suppliers managing. And I think one of the most fun things that we did, you get to create in that space. Brand is so fun and dynamic, and generating authenticity through partnerships with different brands at Walmart was probably the most fun that I had while I was there.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
So you got to be a new merchant.
I got to be a new merchant.
And
I felt like a very new merchant because unlike probably most merchants that start, you go through the merchant training program or you start in replenishment or business analytics, anything other than just straight from supplier to merchant. And so
came straight in. Buyer.
Basically when I started, a lot of the contacts that I had in merchandising at Walmart sent me all of the how-to decks.
Yep.
They're all different.
Yep.
From different decades.
Yep.
Some were, I think, still from like 70s that had been photocopied and
stack it high.
I remember that one. It's crooked. The 7 rules or
Yeah,
principles.
that was in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jennifer Balmer. I think she was the keeper of that PowerPoint for a long time.
Yeah. So there was a lot of different competing methodologies and vocab and a lot to take in when I started.
And that's why we're here today to talk about the merchant mindset and onboarding a new merchant.
Yeah.
Because you've done that probably on the supplier side, and then you were that new merchant.
Yeah.
So when you were that new merchant, what, without naming names or anything like that, what were some of the examples of, wow, that's exactly what I needed from a supplier partner?
Yeah.
That really got me further down the road.
Yep. I had a few suppliers that came to me. Some were small and some were big, so the size of the team or the business didn't really matter. But I had a few that came that just said, hey, we know you're new. We know you're passionate about the category and the industry. We know you want to win. We're not going to be here to sell you our stuff right out of the gates. We just want to make sure that you understand the industry that you're playing in. So they brought me anytime I'd ask for...
So no motive.
Yeah. Which I mean...
necessarily.
Yeah, there's always a little bit. But at
Yeah.
the same time, it was like, we're going to put that on hold just to give you information about the industry, kind of some wins and losses from the past, what's been done before, what hasn't, what pitfalls you might fall into. But a lot of it was really just, industry reports, consumer knowledge, studies that they had or got access to and shared, syndicated data reviews. So there was a lot of things that were provided, and I just liked digesting it all. I think I took about 6 months before I didn't have to do a mod straight away when I started, which I was.
That's a blessing.
It was a huge blessing.
Whole lot of merchants come in. Hey, welcome. Your modular is late.
Yes. Make line review. Your line review's already happened, actually.
Yeah.
And here's the commits that were already sent out. Now make it happen.
Talk to the last merchant who's thinking about their new job and try to talk about what they learned during those line reviews. I mean, on the supplier side, you've probably experienced new merchants, and that's got to be hard. 6 months to really push for decision making from a new merchant. Did that mean a lot to you as a buyer coming in?
To take that type of time?
Yeah.
It was. I think it set me up for a ton of really being able to make good decisions down the road. So it was huge. And that was I had a great leader at Walmart at the time who advised me to do that. And she actually sent a note that said, she actually said 3 months, but she said, don't schedule any meetings for 3 whole months. And I remember wanting to get in and learn it. And I want to start making decisions. I want to start doing it. So it took a few weeks to settle into how good of an idea that was at first, but I'm grateful for it now looking back on it.
I feel like shout out necessary Annie Walker.
Annie Walker.
I mean,
man, took
one of my absolute favorite DMMs. Loved buying for her. She was awesome.
Yeah.
Because we did get to buy together.
We
for
did.
Those that, and we haven't. We have a lot of followers here on the Retail Journey podcast. So Matt and I got to buy together in OTC.
We did, right next to each other.
That was a really good time. Really good time. And Annie was an awesome leader and still is.
She is.
Across Walmart. But that time, huge gift for a new merchant.
Yep.
One, from your leadership. So on the merchant side, give the time. Let's soak it in.
Because you're not just thinking about the industry. You're also building a new team. You've got a new replenishment contact with certain ways of working. You've got new analytics. You've got a new pricing team. You've got a new private brands team, and you're working. They're already halfway through development process on some of the products that they're working on.
And as a new buyer, you've never worked with any of those teams before.
Correct.
Yeah.
You're not just picking up in another place.
That's a gift.
Yeah.
Time.
So of those suppliers that came in and really spent the time to work with you, to teach you what they knew, to give you their perspectives, did that have any impact on how you saw their brand moving forward?
It ended up giving me the trust that they had my best interest in mind and they were going to be in it to grow, not just for a quick ships for a good year one. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think those are the brands that I partnered with the most to create some of the innovation that honestly I'm actually the most proud that we ended up launching was with some of those partners that I had.
Yeah. Sometimes it just takes time.
Yeah.
I love that.
So from having been on the side of being in sales and receiving a new buyer, being a buyer that's new on a desk, how would you approach, or how would you tell others to approach kind of the first meeting with their new buyer that comes onto the desk, their new merchant?
That's a good question. I think come with imagine yourself in that seat, and what would you want? If you think through the lens of who you're there to meet with, and think that's what do they need? And think about where they're at in their career. Look at where their experience has been, where you think there might be highlights, where you think there might be lowlights, and think through their lens first.
Maybe think of them as a person.
Well,
Yeah. I mean, empathy. Let's go. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Not just a gatekeeper at all. No, this is a new role. It's exciting. A lot of pressure.
Yeah. And I think that's in if now having sat on the account management side too, the internal pressures and the weight on, this is your first shot at the new merchant, from your leadership that you're going to be getting, from the lead, from the board at whatever company you're at. But fighting for that, hey, we're just going in to make sure that we just establish some trust. I want to treat this person as if I were there and going to do them the biggest favor that I could. I'm going to share with them. I want to listen first. I want to see how's it going. What do you feel like is working well? Not even in business, but just the new role. What's been hard for you? And defending that within your own company so that the expectation isn't, hey, Matt, did you get that holiday program locked in?
Did you get the PO?
Yeah.
Did you get the PO?
Because the last buyer said
that our feature program for holiday 2024 was a go. It's already on the water, so pressure's on you. No, don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. On the buyer side, you feel that pressure for sure.
You do.
And on the supplier side, if the buyer did commit to something, you also feel all right, how do I meet you?
Which
but
is
also
real.
Make sure that this boat full of goods has a home. It's going to get distributed when it lands. How would you coach someone through, that the nuances of that context?
So I had some good examples of some pretty experienced salespeople that I got to work with that I try to think of. Like start treating each other like people, but then at the end, it was always we got the quick hits list. So there's some stuff that we just got to get down to business. And the last 5 minutes of this meeting is going to be tactical. And we have to get through some of these things. I think when you start with that, at least my experience from the merchant side and now the others, you start with the tactical, you think this is the stuff we have to get through first. You end up just talking about that the whole time. And you never make room and go back the other way to let's just think about ideas and strategy.
So start with the category.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think I've experienced the same thing when it comes to, even if you've got an established relationship with the merchant and you're going in for your line review, but start with the industry insights. Start with the customer. Yep. When you start there and you know who the customer is and what industry you're playing in, and you ground yourself in that, everything else that you're going to talk about, product or marketing, innovation, anything, it all has a place to land.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about merchant mindset, if I were to put one word in front of it, it's the customer. If we've got merchants focused on the customer, or as Steve Bratsby's would say, maniacal about the customer, that's the mindset that Walmart has historically pushed for. And I'd say very much so today, just empowered in a lot of new and different ways.
And I think it's hard to, now merchandising and the structure within Walmart has changed a lot in the past 5 years and the 5 years before that. And so some of that can get lost, but the core of it still being about the customer is going to make a great merchant no matter what the structure is, no matter what the percent of time allocated to e-commerce versus stores, modular ownership or not, pricing ownership or not, all the other things that are levers that can change and flex with new tools and technology that are being rolled out. Being maniacal about the customer is still number one.
Yeah. I feel an alliteration coming on. So first you talked about time. right? Give them a little bit of time. And then it's about trust.
Like that.
Go build that trust before you hit that tactic, was what I was hearing.
We got 2 T's.
So we got time, trust,
Then tactic.
sub T, tactic.
Tactics.
So you got to land
Triple
on a T somehow.
Okay.
But do tell us what else. When you're coming on with a new
I'll
merchant.
let you come up with the T.
This is not a trap.
I'll just talk.
You talk. We're getting it. Mr. T, let's go. Talk about the nuance, the texture. I mean, retail is non-linear, right? This is not a straight line between welcome new buyer and great modular decisions, successful buyer. There's texture throughout that journey. And so understanding the texture of what they're walking into was something I know we've talked about beforehand. When you think about coming into a new merchant, you gave them time, you start to build some trust, and you're aware of the texture of their situation.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
I think when you build the trust, you start to understand, and you'll get more transparency about. There you go.
Ooh, 4 T's.
But you'll get more authentic exchange, and then as you adapt and you learn, because man, the data at Walmart is awesome. The amount that you have, that's just such an advantage to be able to dive in and really understand what's going on in your business, what's working and why it's working, and what customers are putting together with that, and what the story is, and then the same with why it's not working.
Yeah.
And being able to dive in, and sometimes you just have to make some educated guesses along the way, but you learn. But I think the trust sets the stage for being able to then understand and always be sharing. So one thing that I guess where I'm going with this, one thing I always like doing was who's winning and why. So whenever I would just ask that question in supplier meetings as a merchant, who's winning and why? And that just kind of took it back to some of the industry, some of the customer trends, but look at what other people are doing and who's winning and why are they winning? And then in the back of my mind, I always had what's working for me and what's not working. And sometimes they would fire that question back at me. What's working for you and what and why and what's not and why. So I think that helped that texture start to develop, where you said, okay, so we've got the trust. Now we're starting to work. Now we're really, through the course of the year, certain things start working better and certain things start working worse. And I was willing to ride that with the people that I trusted more and share that information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it normal for a merchant to have 3 months when they come on the desk before they meet with suppliers or anything like that? Or is that kind of an anomaly?
Man, that's part of the tough part of merchandising. When I think of you want to make a good impression with your leaders internally, with your team, and you want to be seen as a go-getter. You want to win. You're competitive and you're hungry to win. So it can feel like, I just think of the word like apathetic to not meet with somebody in the first 3 months. And you could say, I'm taking a risk. I'm going to be looked at as a person that's not being aggressive about my business. So no, I don't think it's common that happens. And I think it does kind of depend on, is this a new buyer that's been in a parallel category? Like I think of, Charles, some of your moves where you're in OTC at a few different desks. You had perspectives. You were in monthlies. You were in QBRs, 30, 60, 90s with those merchants through the course. So you already had a pulse on their business. So for you, taking 3 straight months when you're transitioning from, onto vitamins from wherever you were buying diapers.
Adult diapers.
Has that already been mentioned on this podcast before?
No, it hasn't, but
No.
we should mention it now.
That's a
I've
nugget.
absorbed that information.
You've prevented all the market leakage.
It is not leaked.
Yeah, good. Glad we did that.
So what is a merchant in their first 3 months, regardless whether they're meeting with suppliers or not? What are they trying to bring in? I think that'd be great context for suppliers to understand. What are they working through and trying to accomplish in addition to doing their job?
Yep. Best advice I had from a really seasoned merchant and from Annie were, your biggest resource is going to be your team. So if there's one thing that you can do in this time when you're not conducting line reviews. It is develop your relationship with your replenishment manager, with your mod manager. Those two relationships are going to serve you no matter what. So that was my first priority, actually, in the first month in my 30, 60, 90. My 30 was develop a weekly team meeting cadence with an agenda that had buy-in across the whole team, that covered all the topics that each one needed. But really the whole purpose was just gel more as a team.
And the merchant leads that team?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Not from a structure standpoint, but from a business standpoint.
Yeah.
Yep. So that was my first. And then after that, it really, for me, I wanted to dive into the industry. I wanted to understand the industry that my category was playing in. So I started, at that point, I did actually take a few different meetings, not supplier meetings. It was just, what did I call them? Like category 101s. Yep. I met with my category advisor first, and actually asked them, hey, from your experience of working with different brands and different companies, because they've been advisors on the business for over 5 years, who do you think is bringing insights? Who do you think is bringing things that are valuable, that outside of their products I could meet with and learn from? And they gave me some recommendations. Some of them were good. Some of them were not as good. But then that kind of helped me start to develop that category 101 for the next, it was probably 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Those were the only meetings that I had external to Walmart.
I love that.
Yeah.
Establishing rapport with your team matters so much internally. I also think some of the best merchants think about their suppliers as part of that team, right? There's an extension. There's certainly some areas where we're not maybe on the same page when negotiating costs, but largely we're focused on serving customers, more of them in a more delightful way. And what it sounds like, you ask for recommendations of like, all right, who on my extended team can I trust to help me as I start understanding the category?
And just be clear about the agenda that you set out. Hey, this isn't anything about your product review. I don't want to know your brand architecture. I want to know agnostic of that. And obviously your brands will play into the industry for sure. So you'll probably have more information about that because you've done more studies on that. I get it. But the point is a true category 101.
So to speak directly to the merchants, like your team matters a lot. And the extension of your team is your suppliers.
Yep.
Then to speak to our supplier friends, be a good team member. Like if you can actually be a part of helping someone understand their category, what's going to help them win, that will help in the near term as they're onboarding, and that trust will go a long way when there are tiebreakers or ways that there's nuance and interpreting.
Oh boy!
Wow,
Did you do that on purpose?
Interpreting. There we go.
Interpreting.
I'm not sure. Are we debating and interpreting? Interpreting customer nuance in the data and landing on the right side of recommendation to keep winning against competition.
Yeah. And I think there's one other element in that. It's like, account management, whether it's a broker or somebody else that's not a pure supplier, manufacturer, or merchant, it's that relationship can also be tricky, but that's where you've got to do the same exact thing. You've got to push for that unbiased support, be an extension of the team.
So if somebody comes in on their first meeting, particularly one that's been asked for category 101, and it's my brand this, my brand that, my brand this.
Oh, yeah.
Little invalidating. Right?
Sure.
So come in.
Clear as day.
Think about the category because the merchants aren't thinking about individual brands.
Yep.
Right? They're
The
thinking
best,
about
the best category 101
brands are a
that
part of the category.
That's right. The best one that I had wasn't even on the PowerPoint template from the brand. It was a totally different thing. It didn't say the brand or the ownership company or anything like that on there. And I just felt like, oh, that was a good signal. Like you built this even with that in mind.
The irony of the self-serving being detrimental to self.
Yeah.
And the selfless in that context, very helpful.
Yeah. Now there were just really also big parts of my business where they weren't necessarily unbiased and they were super pushy, but I just needed them. So, but still, that's not who you want to go to build strategic plans with.
Right.
So,
Right.
Yeah.
It's a necessary evil, perhaps.
Awesome. So to recap, give them time. I think we alliterated this. So new merchant, give them some time. Build trust, which will lead to transparency, which is really helpful as you hit through all the tactics of running a business. And then get into the nuance of the texture of their situation, which could be tough for them.
All right. When you get to 5 T's, that's just too many T's.
Too many.
It's too many T's.
Too much texture, and then you could become part of their team. And if you're an extension of the team, you've landed the plane.
We're still going. I love it.
That's about time. No.
So, kind of takeaways. Like you've seen great brands, you've seen great salespeople, you've seen rough ones, right? Obviously, no names, but what are the things to avoid? And aside from the 25 T's, kind of the things to make a good first impression.
Good tee up
with a new merchant.
So things to avoid.
Yeah, things to avoid.
So one of my least favorite things that I think was least productive, at least for me, and maybe this translates, is the comparison to previous buyers, whether they were so awesome and I know you can live up to it. And
totally.
they committed to this and that really worked. And so it was just this like using that as a pathway to basically try to make it really easy for you to make their decision. It's like, I've got my own ideas. Help me get to the why, not just the what.
Right. I have to defend this from my perspective,
myself.
Not from their perspective.
Can I get an amen on that? Because that is the worst. Or the opposite, where the week before they're talking about how the last merchant was so good, to that merchant.
Yep.
Then they left and they're like, oh, that merchant was awful.
Yep. Let's have a bash session together.
Like, cool, I could trust you to
right.
not turn your back on.
Yep.
Yeah. That.
Which I think that goes to the outside of being super tactical or pushy about your brand or anything like that. That goes to like the people side. Like
Totally.
Like, I don't know, treat people with respect. And it's a small town, it's a small area. And so those relationships always come back again. And so I think that really undermined.
Yeah. How can I help you in your role as one professional to another?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like Dwight Schrute had a good principle here. He'd think about if a stupid person would do something, he doesn't do that thing. So here it's like if a good human would do this, do it.
So no stupid people would start a beet farm?
No. He started a beet farm, or he inherited it. Yeah. Moe's.
All right. So let's do some lightning round.
Ooh,
learn a little bit about Matt.
Great.
All right. What's on your reading list?
Ooh, recently I just finished the Ruthless Elimination of Hurry.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's really good.
That'll wreck you if you haven't read it. It's a good read.
John Mark Comer, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a good one. So I think in the area in which we work and live, it was very necessary. So my biggest takeaway is I'm now trying to drive the speed limit.
Yeah, I skipped past that paragraph, but in general, the book was really good.
And really good. And it was crazy. The forward of the book, it's like I'm starting this forward on seat 21C of the airplane. I looked up. I was in seat 21C on the airplane as I was reading it. So I was like, I'm listening.
Full circle.
Yeah.
You're a pretty young guy, but you've had a substantial career. So category, analytics, sales, merchant. What's one or two of your biggest wins that you feel like you were a part of in retail?
Can I name names?
Sure.
Names?
Oh, yeah.
Favorite thing, probably launching Slim Fast Keto. Keto was a huge trend. Whether or not you like it, hate it, whatever, it served a purpose.
And it had
a lot
big impression.
Big impression. And I was really proud of the work that we did to formulate products and to taste and represent what the Walmart customers' taste palette was with the nutritionals that were actually, at the time, were legitimately keto. They weren't going to knock you out of ketosis. They actually helped you get into ketosis. And so I was proud of that launch. Big time.
That's very cool. I remember that. When was it? 2014, 15, 18?
18?
Okay.
17?
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, one of those two.
In the, what are we calling those years? The 20-teens?
The pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID.
Yep.
All right. What do you like to do for fun? Music, I imagine.
Yep. I I love playing guitar. I love arranging songs. My wife actually writes a lot of music, and so I get to fiddle around with bring those songs to life. That's fun.
Oh, that's really fun.
Yeah, it's really fun. I like mountain biking. I like to go to the gym. I just don't do it very often. But that's it.
So your wife does a lot of music.
She does.
She's on Spotify?
She is.
I mean, link it in the show notes. What's her Spotify?
Her album that she's released on Spotify is called Lamplight, and it's scripture songs. So there's a song for every letter of the alphabet, and
Lamplight.
Yep,
Look it up.
it is awesome.
Awesome.
And if there was a movie made about you, who would you like to star you in the movie?
Ed Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran.
Yes.
Hands
Good
down.
answer.
Oh, that hits every point. Yeah, that's awesome.
Love that.
Music, ginger,
Totally. Cool accent.
cool accent. That's
Best
right. Just like
songwriter
you.
I can think
Just
of
like
right
you.
now. Yeah.
He'll have to probably hit the gym to get into character.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. I think we alliterated a few more T's.
I mean, let's tee off what we saw here. So merchant mindset with a new merchant. First and foremost, you give them some time so that they can settle in. And then your next step is to build trust. Like focus on actually building trust. I'll leave some of the extracurricular T's out.
Thank you.
The third is understand and dig into the texture of their situation without just pointing back to what was before, but focus on the time, the present that you're in. And from there, if you can position yourself as an extension of their team, you're going to be in a good spot for the long run. And I think that that advice is probably useful context for merchants that are new to desks or about to be new to a desk, and for suppliers, helping a new merchant land well and serve customers together.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Matt. We
Yeah.
appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Guys,
Appreciate
thanks.
your insights.
Thanks so much for listening. And as always, you can catch us on the third Thursday of the month if you're local to Northwest Arkansas for a happy hour at the Natural State, where they'll be serving all sorts of beverages. So join us there. Subscribe to the Retail Journey because the journey is nonlinear and you don't have to do it alone. So we'll share some of our pitfalls and wins along that journey so that it could be smoother for you. Appreciate you listening.
Thank you so much.
See ya.